Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm the amateur, where I'm not necessarily professional any means, but we're here to just have a conversation. So on this episode, we're kind of continuing my take kind of on marriage and dating, and we're kind of get more into the dating scene. In the previous video, I kind of laid out what my understanding of marriage is and kind of the state that we've gone in today. But especially with feminism, as it breaks down the family structure, kind of encouraging divorces, encouraging a imbalance in the legal system as far as alimony and child support and all those other things, that necessarily leads to a breakdown in dating because you're dating in order to determine if someone is worth marrying, um, so to speak. And so I think right now we're in kind of an issue where um, there's a lot of finger pointing, and both sides are absolutely right. Where men are the reason why the dating scene is where we are, and then also women are the reason why we're in the dating scene that we are. You'll kind of see that in the thumbnail that I've created. But I think it's both. Yeah, both are true. And honestly, again, coming from my perspective, I think still more of the responsibility falls on the men. And it sounds bad, but it's at least I think it's within reason. Again, that's not it's not absolving the women, especially like the women that open their legs, don't think that their choices, continue to make reckless decisions because it's sex is a two-way street. You're choosing who you want to have sex with. She's choosing who she chooses to have sex with, and when you're outside of that marriage, you're both using one another for whatever means. And so both are to blame, but the blame isn't equal. Again, I think men have a little bit of that higher authority, especially when they are meant to be the heads of the family, and especially when a kid is created. That means that is your family unit, and that father is now set to be the head of the household. And so I think there's definitely um, a means where that can be abused, especially again if you're not aligning with God, which is always the reason. And that starts when you start having sex outside of marriage to begin with. So again, coming from where my perspective, it all makes sense. But if you don't follow, then it's just gonna sound like I'm being unjust, maybe. Um, but yeah, because I see it in a way such that no matter how tempting a woman is to a man, whether she opens her legs and invites you in and does all this other stuff, a man still has complete and full control to say no, be gone, wicked wench. um, and pretty much make sure that he's setting the standard for what women should follow because men are meant to be the leaders of the household. So that's kind of my viewpoint of it. And so I think we are in this. So again, I think both sides are at fault. Still a little bit more responsibility to the man because that is the burden of the man. But as far as it comes to the dating scene, I think there's a lot of mismatched priorities as far as the standards that people choose to use in order to determine whether someone is worthy of having sex with that person in order to lead to marriage. Oh my gosh, I'm so gassy. I'm so sorry. And so I think, I think part of this is, especially when you're talking about the best marital relationship, as far as with what's called of the man versus what's called of the woman. You'll see this in videos, especially Kevin Samuels. He's been really, really great at pointing out the discrepancies, I guess, in understanding as far as with typically a two-parent household will work better if one person, primarily the man, because they have less of those biological limitations, is going out to earn the money for the household, whereas the wife is able to just kind of rest, make sure that she's taking care of the home, raising the kids, making sure that they're that the household is in line, and that's kind of playing off to maximize both biological differences And so I think part of the problem and what excuse me, a lot of these YouTubers do is they point out the hypocrisy of kind of like feminism, but a lot of women don't necessarily want equality as far as equal treatment, or else you would have them say go be the garbage man, go be the bricklayer, go be the electrician, go be the plumber. There's not enough woman representation there, or whatever, right? And so what it does is it kind of makes women put into perspective what the truths, I guess, or the benefits that we can see naturally of where both men and women can share their strengths. And so you'll see this when a dynamic of the relationship calls for, at least Christian wise, and even if you're not a Christian, don't believe in any of that stuff, you'll still might find it better when the woman that you're with or the wife that you're with is submissive. So on the nature of submissiveness, I do some BJJ, some Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. There's not a lot of women that participate in that hobby, and so I often find myself fighting with a lot of men, a lot of people who are bigger, stronger, quicker, faster than I am. And for me, my thing is straight defense mode. Um, but again, and there we deal with submissions, right? And so kind of the way that I see it is that submission is a willful choice, and it's not to be confused with subjugation, which is where a person doesn't necessarily want to submit, but they're kind of their hand is forced. Doesn't sound quite. It's different. It's more about the will of choice and not necessarily an evil intent, if that makes any sense. But anyway, so while you're fighting, like submission is a willful choice that you do in order to prevent yourself from being hurt. However, it's still something that when you're fighting, it has to be earned. And so your opponent has to show that skill set, show that he is able to get you into that position, either get your arm separated, your leg separated, or get you in a choke or whatever. But he has to work his way there, and obviously if you're of equal skill or what have you, it might take a while, but that submission has to be earned. Like, you shouldn't just give it all willy-nilly just because you're scared or something, or you panicked in a part but there was actually escape. It's a means of, they have to work for it, if that makes any sense. You have to work for that submission by skill or way of force, not way of force, but by skill, and sometimes strength, especially for myself. I do get thrown around a lot. But in that similar context, especially when it comes to Christianity, where submissiveness is meant to be a willful choice of the wife to the husband, like when you're in that pre-dating scene, you have to make sure that I don't say pre-dating, but pre-marriage, when you are trying to get to know one another, to make sure that that person is someone that you're willing to marry, willing to submit to, that they've shown that, or they've demonstrated that they would put God first. I mean, I guess that's my criteria, at least. But whatever your criteria is, if a marital relationship is something that you're considering, you're interested in as a woman, if you're a lady that's watching this, is that man has to show that he's worth submitting to. And I think this is one of those things, and I've kind of noticed it, even in my personal life. Like, I've only really actually dated seriously to one person. But even then, there's kind of some of the conversations that I've had and seen around. It's really funny, and you'll see this a lot with some of the other podcasts that are floating around YouTube. But we're strange creatures. We are strange creatures, and not that I've necessarily done this, and I might have. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but what we do is, I don't want to say test the bonds, but test a man's word to see if it is true, if that makes any sense. And so the thing about it is whatever it is, and men have been realizing this, but whatever it is that would make a man leave, like I guess what it would say is women like to test the boundaries, if that makes any sense. So making sure that a man will hold true to what he says is true, and this is where you kind of get into that alpha male dominant type character, because we are supposed to be, I say we women, or if you are wanting to be a wife, we are supposed to be the submissive person in the household, allowing the man to lead, take charge. It's not necessarily just sitting back and do nothing, but it's like, so again, kind of allowing that man to have that final say in the household. Like, this is his show, this is his ship, and it kind of puts again that responsibility on him. And like, is this is the way that you want the family to go? Then so be it. But a lot of women like to kind of test those boundaries to see if that man is worth his salt. As far as like, he says, like, what is his criteria, and how far does he really mean it? And if he does really mean it, and you push him past that, and he leaves, and you're like, oh shoot, that was the man that I should have kept, or whatever. So it's like this really weird dynamic that women like to do, that I don't advise. But I think I just thought it was a weird occurrence that I felt should be noted, just to kind of offer a different explanation of the weird things that women do in relationships, and kind of why. But back to the whole thing of submission, especially for women watching this, like, a man needs to be able to prove that he is worthy of that submission. So my criteria is that he puts God first, even before myself, that he needs to love God more than he loves me. That's like a big thing for me. But that he's that caring, compassionate, again, whatever your criteria is, that he holds true to that. And if that's someone that you're willing to marry, then you need to be able to kind of submit to that. And as we've been seeing, a lot of women don't necessarily I don't like saying beta males, but those men that aren't headstrong. So it's this really weird dynamic. So if you're already a strong-headed woman, you are going to typically need someone who's more strong, more stubborn, than you, to kind of make that alignment work. But not a lot of men fit that, if you're not willing to change yourself, that is. So it's just kind of one of those weird dynamics. So again, I've kind of passed my time. I just thought that was an interesting point to make. And then, excuse me, let's move on. Oh, shoot. So that's just kind of my take on one part of the submissive nature that is called upon for a woman, at least biblically, and what I think is also just better for the relationship in society. So comment what you think, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.